everyone, I'm Chen. I'm a game developer for the past 10 years. I'm predominantly a programmer, but I also have experience with game design and art. And I'm also Game Industry.biz 100 Future Talent. And I'm currently pursuing my PhD at RMIT, where I'm developing video games about mental health. Which brings me to my talk today, which is entitled Mental Jam. Mental Jam is a research project that explores the knowledge translation of young people's lived experiences of depression and anxiety through video games co-creation. So knowledge translation is a term that's been used to describe how knowledge is disseminated, exchanged, and applied from a range of different participants and perspectives. Prior research in this area has shown that different artistic mediums can be used to portray the stories as a form of self-expression and to raise community awareness. Video games offer an interactive and immersive experiences that can inspire players to gain the knowledge of the lived perspectives of others. Through a participatory action research methodology, my research will develop a program of game jam workshops that will facilitate the co-creation of video games with different participants with lived experiences of depression and anxiety using different game design approaches, such as the narrative-driven approach. Participatory action research is a user-centered approach where participants are the real expert of their experience, and the advantages of this approach is that the researchers work with the participants in all phases of the research, from design to execution and dissemination, and it also ensures that the participants' experiential knowledge is valued and represented in the final output of the research. My research approach begins with a one-on-one semi-structured interview with young people where they are invited to give an uninterrupted account of their experiences with depression and anxiety. I then thematically analyze their interviews to find recurring themes. And some of the themes that I found, including their views about the causes of depression and anxiety, which includes experiences from their childhood, from work and school, from relationships, from their family. And they also talked about some of the symptoms and how experiencing depression and anxiety feels like to them, such as they spend a lot of time crying, they weren't taking care of themselves, and they also talked about what are some of their self-coping and recovery strategies, which including writing in journals or reading books or watching K-dramas or singing. Then I organized some game jam workshops where participants and game developers and myself, we worked together to develop a video game. And the first thing we did is I presented the interview findings to the participants in the form of a website where I showed some of the interview transcripts as well as the different themes. Then my participants ideate in groups guided by design thinking. So we use a Trello board to keep track of all of our ideas. So we have different lists for different things such as game mechanics, narrative, the art style, and music. And the participants are invited to add as many ideas as possible, and they're reminded that there's no such thing as a bad idea, and they're also encouraged to build on each other's ideas. So we have short bursts and we write as many ideas as possible, and then we have a discussion, and we do this multiple times until we have a clear idea of what game we want to make. During the game jam workshops, I also gave them a short overview of all the different tools that we're going to use. So the games were developed using Unity, and we're also using this tool called Yarn Spinner to write the dialogues for the game. And as you can see, it's quite simple for participants to write the dialogues. And it also enables us to create some branching dialogues as well in the game. One of our game jam sessions, we just sat down and then spent I think we ended up spending 3 hours where all the participants, we were writing the script together. And as we were writing the script, we were looking at the different interview transcripts and themes, and also reflecting on our own lives and our own experiences. And we tried to compose this narrative for the game that is based on all these experiences. And the next step is we developed the games, and during the week, I would work on the programming and art for the game, and then we would have meetings with the participants on one day during the weekend for a couple of hours. And it ended up being a process that took over 3 or 4 weeks. We also collaborated with 2 musicians, a composer and a music producer, to create some original music for the game. And because one of the participants is a singer, they were able to develop a theme song as well. And for the last step, I interview my participants to ask them how they found the game development experience and what they've learned throughout the process. And now, without further ado, I'll show you the game that we made, which is called Amor de Soy. So Amor de Soy is a concept of self-love that is seeing and valuing one's self-worth independent of other people's opinions. So in the game, you meet Rael Sam. So she is an anxious girl who is on a journey to self-love following a breakup from a toxic relationship. So she meets a pixie, which is a magical manifestation of her subconscious, who challenges her negative self-thoughts and also offers some sage wisdom. And players can click on the different objects in her room to get to know more about her story. Normally, games would allow players to customize their characters, but for this game, we take that away. Instead, there is a random color wheel which determines the color of her hair and the color of your skin. Because like in real life, we can't choose how we look like, we can only learn to love ourselves. And this is incorporating one of the other views about the causes of depression and anxiety from my participants. Because some of my participants, they felt out of place in school and at work because they were a minority, like they were the only women in their team, or they were one of the very few people of color in their school or their work. Another cause of depression or anxiety, according to my participants, is the high expectations that they get from their parents to perform well in terms of their academics, as well as the pressures from society to be perfect and to crave external validation. Even in simple things like deciding what to pursue in uni. For one participant, she felt that her parents didn't think much of her course because she wasn't doing something STEM related, while another participant, her mother actually discouraged her from pursuing music, so she pursued computer science instead, and we also incorporated that into the game. Some participants of mine found that singing is a good self-coping mechanism, as well as decluttering, like removing photos of their ex-boyfriend. While some participants found that reading was also very helpful, particularly on motivational books, while another participant was reading a series of books which also featured other characters that also have lived experiences of depression and anxiety, and really encouraged them because it helped them realize that even if you're suffering from these things, you can still be successful. And slowly, the girl in the game, as well as hopefully our players, can learn that who they are is enough, and they can learn to love themselves for who they are. And then the player can go outside and find that the world is beautiful. And as I mentioned before, we collaborated with some musicians, and the participant whose mother didn't allow her to pursue music back in uni, she was able to sing a song for this game.
Down, just as a heavens now. How do you go on, bright clear as the stars, never knowing what the world has now? And though the road seems far, just know you'll be alright. And so it goes on, tears to you and I, ever flowing in the shadows tonight.